Okay, so there you go.
There you go. We're recording that. Yes,
Recording, lovely. Sorted.
All right. Well, welcome everybody. This is Talk It Out, the very first podcast of its kind. I'm Ivan Kayima. Oh, is it of its kind, Marco? Would you say?
The first of its kind?
Yeah, like this type of podcast that we're doing.
Definitely not. No.
Definitely not.
but you know, we'll try and make it original, I suppose.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm Ivan, founder of Spiela and one of the co-hosts of Talk It Out. It's about mental health and two guys coming together from different worlds who've been friends for a very long time, getting into it. And my co-host, you are?
I'm Ricci. I'm the founder of Talking Mental Health, which is a space for people to share their mental health stories, as well as find the latest developments and news from the mental health world. We're basically trying to change the conversation around mental health.
That's really interesting, especially when you put it like that, because I normally always tease you, TMH. That just sounds like a wrestling name or something, but...
I don't know why it makes you laugh so much, but there you go.
But yeah, so, we decided to come together after a little while and just really talk about mental health and how it affects all of us and how it's such a taboo, especially in my community, the Black community, African community, where it's just seen as something, not a shame, but it's seen as a weakness to kind of talk to someone about your issues. And, I think that it definitely comes from an old traditional sense of just having to tough it through, not realizing how toxic it actually is. So, we're in the process now where the diaspora are unlearning a lot of the toxic things we learned from our previous generations and working on how we can go through our issues and be better people and not suffer in silence. In the words of Burna Boy, we can't come and kill ourselves. I don't think you know what that means. But what that means is ultimately it's not worth death over these things, with pride.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think in recent years, there's been so many developments going on and so much more awareness of specific mental health issues, even just like the common mental health problems that we all experience, like anxiety, low mood, all those kind of things, stress. The awareness has built up so much in the past few years that a lot of us are kind of questioning what we actually know about mental health, how to even define it as well as to treat it. So I think it's about time that we all started, opening up about it and talking honestly about it with each other.
So when you say honestly, how honest are you getting at, Marco?
Very honest. I was about to say honestly. Really honest. Yeah. I think we need to. I think there is a certain kind of filter that people tend to apply to mental health issues. In that it's kind of like there are some things that are so taboo that like nobody wants to talk about it, and I do understand that because there is a danger of certain ways of thinking kind of being passed between people, and you don't necessarily want that to happen, but you can still talk about them constructively as long as you're being careful with what you're saying. But equally, what we're going to be hitting on, I think, most of the time is going to be the kind of very common mental health issues that we come across every day. The stuff that both of us have experience with. Me with anxiety, you with anxiety as well, I think.
Yeah. Anxiety and more. Anxiety plus.
Yeah, definitely. Same with me. So I think it's about time that we started talking about it more honestly, really. So there is still, like what you were saying earlier, with the whole kind of, the stiff upper lip attitude of like, we can't talk about it. We have to just bear the brunt of it, work our way through it and get on with it. All that kind of like British stiff upper lip thing. It's not working. There's so many people who are experiencing all these kind of common mental health issues, and we need to talk about it honestly.
Yeah, no, I agree. Especially with lockdown and the way things are happening, suicides are an all-time high. People are feeling isolated and alone, and already if you feel that, imagine having mental health issues such as anxiety, and you have a lockdown which restricts you from being able to actually live the life you live or do the things that help you deal with your mental health issues. I can't imagine the pain people are going through and having to find alternatives, and especially if you can't afford something like therapy, right? Which is a privilege to be able to get, especially on the NHS. It's really unfortunate what people are going through and not knowing how to deal with such things. And when it happens, not knowing what it is as well. So it's kind of having that beating feeling in your heart and not knowing what is going on. So it'd be interesting talking to you about uncovering our own kind of experience with it, how it affects others, and how we see how our mental health actually, what effects it has on us and how we see the world and how we see each other, right? From
Yeah,
a racial perspective, from a creed perspective, sexual orientation, that kind of thing. So, yeah,
absolutely. So it's
yeah,
going to be interesting.
yeah, definitely. So, for the people, Marco, it would definitely be a good to get a bit of insight about you and where you came from, what you do, who you are.
Yeah, definitely. So, in my background, I grew up in a little town called Beckenham in Bromley,
In Narnia, by the way.
Narnia, as you call it. I currently live in Epsom in Surrey. Um, so my upbringing hasn't been particularly difficult, to be totally honest with you, but there have been a lot of kind of instances of in my life and a lot of examples of mental health issues. I mean, my granddad suffered quite badly from bipolar disorder. Um, my mum, I know that she went through periods of depression. Um, a couple of years ago, I found out about my older brother, someone who I looked up to and thought was like, invincible. He went through quite a long stint of depression, and now I know myself. I've been through depression, and from visiting CBT sessions, realized that for most of my life I've been experiencing symptoms of anxiety. I just didn't have a label for it. So from that, it's become. I've realized that over the years, the more that I talk about it, the more I talk to others, they tend to kind of share the same experiences with me. There's a lot of kind of like, oh yeah, I experienced that. I experienced that back when I was doing whatever or in a specific situation. And slowly and slowly, the more I've spoken about it, the more people in my life I realize are affected by it. And yet there's still this strange kind of barrier that we have where we feel like we can only talk about mental health issues like in the staff kitchen or something, like quietly whispering to each other in the corner about, oh yeah, this person is feeling this or whatever, or I'm feeling that. And you can't, it's not really a normal conversation, or it's at least not perceived as a normal conversation. So for me, that's why I founded Talking Mental Health, because the whole point of it is to get people talking about it and having the conversations so that people can start to feel more comfortable going and seeking help when they need it.
It's on the label, but deeper than that. I'm talking about the health, TMH.
Yeah, definitely. And
No, definitely.
it really is not just the talking part. I know that that's the name, Talking Mental Health. It really isn't just that. It is deeper. It's about the conversations that you have, and it's about changing the way that we're conversing about it.
Yeah,
That's my background.
That's an interesting point. And yeah, thank you for that, Marco, and that insight. I didn't actually know, but as long as I know you, I didn't know about your granddad when you told me, you had bipolar. Serious
Yeah,
stuff.
like severe. He was on all kinds of medication. I think he was actually detained at some point in his life. In
As a hazard to himself.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was suffered quite badly with bipolar. I know that my grandma had a bit of a tough time, kind of living with it as well, living with my granddad. But yeah, so there's a history of it in my family. Definitely, it's definitely a
Yeah.
trait.
Yeah. Okay. No, fair enough. Thanks for sharing that, Marco. That's really insightful and really important to know. And myself, Ivan, I was born and raised in Southeast London, Lewisham. I was born I didn't have the most fortunate start in life. There was like 7 of us in a 2-bedroom house, a squalor in Milford Towers, one of the most dangerous estates in Southeast London. People got their heads beheaded, people getting killed there, robberies, all kinds of things happening, right? Environment of a young child, it's a concrete jungle, but when you're a kid, you're in bliss. You don't know these things go on. You don't know any better. It's just your environment, right? And I kind of lived a relatively quiet upbringing up until keeping myself out of trouble up until about 8 years old when I lost my father. He was really, really ill, so he passed. And then at the age of 13, I lost my brother. And of course, as you can imagine, it turned this sweet 6-foot kid in South London, 8-year-old 6 foot, because I'm 6'7" now, I'm a bit of a giant, to really,
Like,
yeah, to a really angry.
But you are huge.
Thank you very much, mate. Thank you very much. To a really angry, just kind of neglected kind of kid, just always angry at everything and everyone. And I grew up in a house of faith, so I was even angry at faith. Like, how could these things happen? And it kind of set my life in a little bit of a spin, and it all kind of hit the full circle when I got arrested for a crime I didn't commit on my birthday. And I think that's when I knew it had gone too far. Just being able to see who was there for me and realizing that my family will always be there for me no matter what. And those people who were my friends never really were my friends, or were never really for me. So then I made positive steps to kind of do better and get better and to make, be an example of my community. While, of course, dealing with the usual racism that the UK has to throw at us, hey, big old UK. And kind of was able to, through the odds, was able to graduate from university, school, go to sixth form, graduate from university, go business school, and create a startup, which I have now, Spiela, which is ultimately a social network for jobs and opportunities for individuals, like-minded individuals, working entrepreneurs and professionals. So, my life up until this point has been great. I'm a senior product manager at Cisco, which is a private technology company. But all the while going through that, I was kind of going through things in my life where I had this pressure on me, this pressure that was this fear of failure. And I really placed a lot of pressure on myself to make sure I achieve everything I did in life. And I think it kind of accumulated, all kind of got to the head. And the breaking point was last year when I had a really serious panic attack. And I didn't know where it had come from. So I then gone to the hospital, had a full check. They advised me therapy, took therapy, and I realized that, yeah, I have a very functioning anxiety. I have mild anxiety, but it can of course intensify and get worse based on my situations. And having therapy allowed me to see kind of all the internal issues, all the issues I was internalizing, so such as imposter syndrome, fear of being a black person in certain spaces, and going through all of my experiences and seeing uh, always leading with my skin as opposed to who I am, and which then created a lot of internal fear in myself, which drove my anxiety, which drove kind of my paranoia of things. So I wouldn't say I was necessarily depressed, but I definitely over worry about things. And I think I've always said, even to Marcus, I think it's a blessing and a curse. My anxiety has allowed me to get to where I am because my fear of failure pushes me to work obsessive amounts. I work obsessively to this day. I still work very obsessively in something I'm passionate about, but it's also been my downfall because it has affected me mentally, in the sense of every time I achieve, I start feeling imposter syndrome, like, do I deserve to be here? So, this whole kind of mental experience and the mental health experience and the complexities of everything has made me see, this is such an important topic to talk about. And, I'm really glad to be teaming up with Marco to talk about this on Talk It Out. And so, look forward to hearing everybody's responses and everybody else's experiences. But yeah, that's a bit about me.
Yeah. Wow. See, you said when I was talking, oh, you didn't know about my granddad and a lot of the bits of my past. We should say that we've known each other for what?
7 years? 7, 8 years?
I thought it's longer than that, but yeah, it's a long time. There are things that we've just found out about each other just now. Like, I didn't know about your childhood and your upbringing.
Yeah, and it's a guy thing, right? Because growing up as guys, I don't know if it's the same for you, Marco. We were told, don't talk about your feelings, don't go on about things, tough it out, walk it out. As a kid growing up, you don't think of it as anything. But as you get older and you find your place in the world, I don't think we realize how toxic that actually is, and how negative that is to get us boys to not express how they feel. And so, that's something that we definitely feel like we can talk about, right? Just that whole thing of, being told, suck it up, your boy, big boys don't cry, all these negative things that put a stigma on us or put stereotype on us. And if we fall from that, if we don't uphold this stereotype of big boys don't cry, then we're going to be seen as weak and made fun of and be called Nancy and all that kind of horrible stuff. So that's an interesting one to go through. I don't know if you've ever been through that, Marco.
Yeah, I very much was. My dad was very kind of, didn't really care much about, mental health issues or like how I was feeling or anything like that. That was always kind of brushed aside. My brothers, who, to be honest, I've never really spoken that much to them about mental health. But that has always kind of felt like, and I don't think deliberately or through a fault of their own. I think it's very much we've all kind of experienced the same kind of barriers to talking about men's mental health. That even as brothers, we don't really talk to each other about it. It's just that kind of like, it's a bit like a social norm. You just don't do it.
Yeah, yeah,
It's just accepted that it's not a conversation that you have.
yeah,
And as I said, like my brothers, at least one of my brothers I know has experienced depression quite badly. I had no idea until a couple of years ago, and that was a few years ago that he'd experienced it, and that wasn't even through
was
him.
it was
That
it just a
was
conversation, or was it like an outburst?
no, it wasn't. I didn't find out through him. That I found out through my mum.
Okay.
It was just like, oh, by the way, your brother, he's taking these pills, and I was just like, I'm sure I've heard those pills before. Is it for depression? She was just like, yeah, he's taking pills for it, and he has been for a couple of months now. And actually, it was then that I'd found out the events that had occurred in his life that had led up to that. And like I said, it's just like something that we just never talked about. We still don't really. I don't know if he's going to listen to this, and then maybe it will open a conversation about it. In a way, I kind of hope he does, because
Yeah,
it'd be
I
nice to
mean,
start talking about that stuff with him.
I know you've never spoke to him about this, so it will be hard to answer this. But do you think it was stuff like from your father's viewpoints of your father's word? Do you think some of that was triggers as well? So your father's influence.
Yeah, he you know this. We don't have the greatest relationship with
Yeah,
my
yeah,
father, and he's had an influence on all three of us. I've got two brothers. On all three of us, he's had a bit of a negative influence, really. And I suppose I'm 10 years younger than both of them. They both grew up in a household living with him, so they have obviously kind of picked up a lot of the behaviors that he's passed down. Like you learn from your dad. And I've kind of learned my behaviors more through my mum, but
yeah. Similar, same.
similar thing. And my mum experienced a lot of kind of issues as well. I don't know if it was because of my father, but she experienced a lot, and it there was a lot basically that was uncovered over the years in terms of mental health issues. And like I said, I think it's just that kind of learned behavior of like it being a social norm,
Yeah,
and perhaps
it's crazy. It's crazy though, isn't it?
protecting yourself as well.
It's crazy that it's been a social norm, and the fact that everybody at some point will interact with it or suffers from it. Kind of like that whole death, taxes, and mental health. That should be the new anthem or the new slogan, because it's one of those
Yeah.
things where it could be anything: high self-esteem, low self-esteem, anything can trigger it, right? Anybody
Mm.
can get it, in the words of Adrian Broner. And so, one of the things I'm learning as well, especially from the Black community, is that you don't talk about your issues, you don't talk about your problems, and I love seeing what I'm seeing from my generation, that people are working really hard to fight past that and really trying to be better, because we understand, these are generational curses. So how we behave, how we do it, we don't want to pass that on to our kids, our mistakes or our errors.
Mm.
You especially are getting at that age where you need to start thinking about kids. So not me. You, man.
I'm 32, by the way.
I'm
Ivan,
20,
how old are you?
25, 25.
25, is it?
Yeah.
I don't think that's true, but okay. I'm
I
32.
don't count
You might
COVID.
say you're
COVID year don't
25.
count. I'm still 25, mate.
Actually, that's a good point. I'm not counting this year, so I'm still 30.
Nah, you are. Nah, you are,
No,
mate.
I'm not counting it.
Anything past 30, you
Right
count, mate. Yeah. Anything past 30, you have to count that. All right. That barrier's gone. I'm still in my 20s. I'm still in my 20s. So
Okay.
yeah.
All right, mate. Thanks for reminding me. I appreciate it.
So
Um,
it's just interesting to see, like, people are working really hard to kind of fight past that. But then again, I'm only going to speak from the perspective of a man, and just being as a man, it's really crazy how we see it. Like, a man crying out for help is deemed weak, or you get laughed at and mocked. And again, I'm no better. I've grown up, I was that exact same type of idiot that would go around insulting others for being in that situation, not realizing how toxic it was. Because now, anybody's crying out for help, I'm the first person to give them a call and be like, hey, what's up? Do you want to talk? Is it okay? Suicide and all these things from men's, just in particular this topic, men's mental health is serious, right? And suicide as a whole from people suffering from mental health is serious. And
mm,
instead of laughing at people, really be kind to people is one thing I've learned, because you don't know what someone's going through, right?
absolutely. There's like I said, there's so many people in my life that I had no idea they were experiencing what they were experiencing, and like serious stuff. I had no idea that you were going through your anxiety until you told me I think it was last year you told me about it.
Yeah, yeah.
I
You
didn't.
know how boisterous, and fun I am,
I
or
did.
fun loving. You never, you know what I mean? I'm the life of the party, mate. You never think it.
Yeah. There is that. But I didn't know about your. I didn't even realize about the panic attack until you just told me.
Yeah. Oh, it was horrible, man. I was on a train home, and I had to really firm it. Like I was, like I don't know what it was, because I don't know if you've ever had a panic attack, Marco. But my God, they can just come out of nowhere. Before you know it, they're just doing them church shaking. You know, them churches that speak in tongues, just you just before you know it, mate. You're just going off on one,
Yeah.
and you don't know where it's from. It could be the slightest thought or trigger. Just
Yeah.
so you know, when it happened, I was just like, oh my God, what's going on? My heart was beating. I was getting hot, sweaty. I kind of sound like the Eminem, just kind of move it, lose it, and
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, that one. It kind of sounds like that, the intro of it. But what I'm trying to say is, it's real serious, and nobody else has noticed it, because I kind of put my head down and just really breathe. Allow yourself to breathe. Just remember some of the techniques I learned to breathe. And I think for me, that's when I realized, now I've got to get help for this, because it's something you can easily brush to the side or not put much consideration into. But until it hits you or hits a loved one, that's when you'll notice how serious it is. And it's a shame it has to take a negative thing to happen, a negative instance, for you to then want to take action. But I feel like we should be on top of that already, should we not? Do you feel like it could be combated if we were to discuss how we're feeling immediately, as opposed to trying to bottle it in?
I think so. I mean, that's the thing about mental health, is that it does feel very reactive as opposed to proactive.
Mm.
And I think in recent years, it's that shift towards being more proactive about mental well-being. You know, that's why we've seen kind of the popularity grow of things like mindfulness and techniques like that, and meditation and things like that,
Yeah.
to kind of learn these ways of thinking and calming yourself down and being more present in the moment, all that kind of stuff, to kind of help you when you feel you get those feelings in the future. And it feels like a much more proactive approach, as opposed to, you know, someone bottling it until either something very drastic happens and very sad happens, or they end up being sectioned because they've never spoken to someone about it.
Yeah.
And I do think just simple communication with just like friends, family, anyone really, colleagues, does kind of help you. It helps you unbottle your feelings, and it helps you kind of process them better. And in some instances, you realize, oh, I'm just overthinking this, or I'm putting far too much energy into this, when actually I should be looking at it from this perspective, things like that. It helps to do that, but it also starts to break down those barriers that you have of those social norms, and that awkwardness of like, I don't really want to say that I'm feeling depressed because I need to finish this assignment by whatever deadline. It's like people kind of prioritizing their work over their mental health, or other priorities over their
Or
mental health.
can you blame them? Look at the society we live in. Even
Yeah.
just the biggest example of it, a big thing I think about social mental health, and one thing I don't get myself involved in, is with the feelings and care of the public. Everyone's so inherently selfish as a joke, but then I don't blame everybody. Look at the government, the country we live in. We live in such a racist, capitalist country. Everybody's just out for themselves. People don't care about one another. So, you know, if, for example, for COVID, stay at home, you have all these people talking about loved ones that have died, the death rates going up, you know, people crying and begging people to stay at home. No one cares. That's
Mm,
the reality. Nobody cares. Until it happens to them or their own loved one, nobody cares, because we do not live in a system which fosters care or
yeah.
community or cohesion. That will in turn drive mental health, because, you know, I'm pretty sure there's a stat somewhere. I'm not even going to try and lie about a statistic show. I don't know what statistic, but I'm pretty sure people that are within a community and feel loved and cared and feel united, their mental health is more likely to be better
Yeah.
than those in isolation. And that's what it's like living in London. So a big part of mental health is the environment you live in. And we don't live in a loving environment where people are care for each other and want to stand for each other. Because if we did, I guarantee we would have come together to fight this COVID, but we don't. And so, you know, it's pointless to be screaming and crying and begging people to change, because no one's going to do it unless it happens to them. So that kind of starts from us, whether we want to build that cohesion, which in turn again all ties kind of to mental health and how we're dealing with things and this lockdown. Because people are so selfish that they know that if we were to all lock down and really put an effort to, because we care about one another's well-being, we would all be free by now to do whatever we want to do. But people just don't care. We only come together when it's football and Brexit, and when hate arrives. It's the only time this country
to be fair,
Brexit and football.
I don't think there's a lot of unity on Brexit. To be fair, mate, that was pretty much split down the middle.
Look who's won.
No,
don't forget. It was only London. Don't forget, it was only London that voted majority.
I'm just saying, you
London's very diverse,
which was pretty much 50-50 split. But other than that, I agree.
48-50, mate. 48-50. Don't forget, majority of London is diverse. It's full of culture. Of course, they're going to know sense and realize, it's not the right thing. Outside of London, them lot all banded together and said, "Now we want to get them out, get the immigrants out." You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm talking about, right? It's only through negative instances to do this country unite. And so until we can learn to love each other in a sense of an environment sense and a community sense, I feel like a lot of the problems tied to mental health are going to keep going as well. Just to kind of follow up on that point.
Yeah. There's a couple of things you said there. One was about the kind of individualistic nature of our society, which you're right. It's Western society in general has that approach. It is very much.
You can thank Socrates for that.
People out for themselves, right? And to then tell people who have that ingrained in them from the point that they're children, and learn that, now you're telling them, no, you need to now think about everyone else.
Imagine, you have to see how we come from. Look, I'm a black man, you're a white man. Let's get straight to the point. We come from two totally different worlds, two totally different fears. Someone on your friend's side, or I'm not saying you, Marco, because you're great, but I'm sure someone on your side has said, "Stay away from black people. Don't talk to them black people." But yet you have the nerve to then want to come say to us, "Can you stay at home, please? Can you consider our lives?" How's that going to work? I don't know you from nowhere. We grew up hating each other or having this Cold War tension, and then you have the nerve to tell me something. I'm not going to listen to you. In my mind, I'm thinking, go die. Obviously, in the word, that's a bit extreme, but you see what I mean? That's a bit extreme, but you see what I mean? I'm thinking,
it's very extreme.
You die. It does no skin off my nose. You don't mean nothing to me. That's what I mean by that.
Yeah. The other thing that you said was about the research about people coming from loving homes, right? Just going back to what you were talking about before.
Going back to what we were talking about.
Yeah. There is definitely research out there. I remember when I was doing my psychology A-level, and it was all about child development and the influence that parents have and environments have on children's behavior as they grew up. And
so if I'm correct, family is the primary agent of socialization. Am I right?
I don't know. I didn't do very well in psychology. I got D, so.
And yet you've done it for the whole year. I bet you thought you got a good result when the results came. But you're thinking, mate, I smashed it. Whoa, I
did it AS and A2 as well.
No, I'm not gonna laugh because I didn't do that great in some things either. So we'll chalk it up as that. But no, but you're right, mate. And it's a multitude of things that can affect it, right? So going back to the point, right? It's lots of things like that. But then, with mental health as well, it's one of those things where unless somebody else, again, it kind of goes back to unless somebody else feels it, they'd understand, right? But then a lot of people I feel go through it, but they don't know. So how is somebody supposed to know what they're really going through unless they're willing to deal with it? Especially from a community like ours where we were in denial about it. Denial. Sorry. I pronounce things a bit differently sometimes. Apologies. I still pronounce Marylebone as Marylebone. What is it, Marylebone or Marylebone?
Marylebone.
Marylebone.
To be honest, I'm not even sure if that's right. So you got to check with like Google or whatever. Get an assistant to read it out to you. I don't know.
Ask Jeeves.
Get Alexa. Ask Jeeves. Yeah, go on.
Ask Jeeves.
If he's still about, I'm not sure.
What do you think then, anyway, about that? What
about? Say it again.
Were you not listening?
was focusing so much on the pronunciation.
No, I was just saying,
Go on.
how are people supposed to know what they're dealing with unless they're willing to actually deal with it? Like, how would they know? So it's kind of another thing. Like, we talk about mental health a lot, but we're talking from the mindset of people that understood it, acknowledged it, and dealt with it. So when people actually lash out or have these random behaviors or these display symptoms of it, how would they then in turn know that they've got a problem? Do you know what I mean?
Well, this is the thing. I think it's like with. I don't mean to liken it to other kind of diseases or disorders because it is different, but for a lot of things, you tend to hear via word of mouth what the symptoms are for something. It could be, I remember I didn't know what a migraine was until I was experiencing the symptoms. And my
How old
mum,
were you?
sorry,
How old were you?
when I had my first migraine, I was about
Yeah.
15.
Okay, I
I
can
had no
forgive
idea what was going
that.
on.
Forgive that.
Like I'd
What
lost
do you think
my,
was going on?
I'd lost my vision in one eye gradually, and I started to feel really queasy. And I remember saying to my mum, I don't know what's going on here, but I've lost my vision in one of my eyes. And she was like, oh, hang on. You starting to feel, do you feel sick as well? And I'm like, yeah. And she went, you're getting a migraine. And it's just that kind of like, you find out via someone else what the symptoms are, someone who has experienced it, right? But with depression or anxiety, I only found out about those things when I was doing my A level. I had
Yeah,
no,
that makes sense.
and it's
No,
like I that was an option to do psychology. It wasn't like part of my normal education. I had no clue.
So you think education within mental health should start from young? It should be ingrained from very young ages.
I think it should be communicated in some manner, yeah, because realistically, even if it's I don't know what age. I don't really want to get into that kind of debate because that's a pretty hard topic to approach. But certainly from secondary school onwards, you should be talking about here are the symptoms of like low mood, depression, anxiety, OCD, things like that. And you should be made aware of those things. I definitely think it should be taught.
Yeah,
I
that
don't
makes
think it
sense.
should be a choice either. I think it's so. I think mental health is so ingrained in everything we do. I mean, naturally it is to the point that we should be talking about it like as a compulsory subject from at least 11 onwards. I would say. I said I wouldn't get into that debate, but I've just given an age for when it
Yeah,
should start. But there you go.
that makes sense. That makes sense. And no, I agree with you on that point, Marco. I
Yeah.
mean, sure.
What do you actually reckon about it? Like, do you think that it should be compulsory?
Definitely, you should know about it from young, mate. Like I said, if doctors are able to spot autism in a young person from ages like 3 onwards, by the time they get to about 7, 8, we should be learning about certain instances or kind of picking up on things. Kids can understand that those kind of differences or behavioral changes, or you're right. So instead of maybe not necessarily the technical terms, but start showing examples or start telling them like this person may have this or this person is like that. I definitely think kids have the what's the word? Cognitive. What's the word? Behavioral cognitive. What's the word?
I don't know what you
Oh,
got.
don't leave me hanging here, bro. Don't.
No, I
Nah,
don't know what you
nah. We
got.
got to flow. You're the one with the words, mate.
Emotional intelligence.
No,
They
it's
are very
cognitive. I know it's cognitive or something.
not emotional intelligence. That was the wrong term as well.
No, what a dumb term
Very,
as well to use.
they're very
Behavioral
like they're
cognitive.
very malleable. You can teach them new things very easily.
Yeah. So why not that, right? It should start from young because again, all that bullying and teasing. Look at this amount of suicide rates that happen in young kids from getting bullied.
Absolutely.
So it should start from young, and that maybe that way will lead into a better society. But for that to happen, the older people, older generation, need to do a much better job in teaching young people. And I'll tell you this now: when I have kids, I'm gonna always teach them. Kids are bullies, and I've heard too many stories of other kids committing suicide or being depressed or being feeling away or being too scared to go to school because of bullies. I'll tell you this now: I know these teachers are not going to do much to defend kids, like when bullying occurs. I'm teaching my kids how to defend themselves real quick with the quickness. Never start nothing, but if somebody tries it with you, finish him. More combat. Finish. I'll just say more combat. Finish them.
I
Finish
don't know
them.
if that's recommended advice, but you tell your kids what you want to tell them.
That exactly
Your
that, man.
choice.
Exactly that, Uncle Marco. They'll be telling you what happens. They'll tell you what happens. Or they'll be asking Uncle Marco. My dad told me we did this. I said, yeah, I did. Hit me.
Yeah.
So, joke aside.
I don't know whether that's going to stay in the podcast. I'll be honest, but yeah.
I think so. It could be a little. It's just, and again, views on my own. Nobody else. Views of Ivan Kayima, not Marco Ricci. There, I said it right. That's all me. So I think he can stay. But no,
Nice.
jokes aside, going back to that point you made. No, I think it can start from young, and only then can we have a really progressive society in regards to mental health. And it's great to see how much attention is actually being drawn towards it now, and people are really starting to see the significance of it and realizing that maybe, hey, I've probably mentally not well as well, or mental disorder, because I know there's a difference between mental disorder and a mental illness. So it's about finding out what one it is to you and how we can progress with it, because it doesn't stop you from leading a normal life and being a great person.
Of course. I mean, I've read multiple stories about celebrities, high earners, all these like business geniuses, and they've all got mental health issues of their own. They've all experienced these kind of things. But there you go. It is exciting to see how it's developing, and I do hope that it keeps going. But we've got to keep pushing it. We can't let the momentum slow down. It does feel like that. It does feel like the beginning of momentum,
It does. It takes a little while, but with enough push, with enough cases, unfortunately, the cases in the good or bad, it highlights and it keeps that to the forefront of what's going on and what's important. And if we can progress, have a mentally healthier society, then I feel we can progress so much better as a people. Because a lot of it ties down to perceptions. There's so much mental health, perception, views, and what it affects: race, sex, perception, growth, peer pressure, high self-esteem, low self-esteem. There's so many things that we're going to be discussing about over time, right? And how mental health plays a part in our way of life and our experiences, and how hopefully we can share and relate with other people.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah, without further ado, I think this will wrap up our first podcast, mate. And so I look forward to catching up with the people. And hopefully, this is a trial run, guys. So this is only for a few select people. So please let us know your feedback and thoughts on how we can improve and how Marco can get better, and so he can keep up with me, because I'm the guy.
Thanks, joking. Ivan. I really appreciate that. Thanks.
No, I'm just joking, mate. I'm just joking. You're my yin to my yang, man. Ebony and Ivory. So you know what I mean. We live together in a perfect harmony. So
nice. I like it. But yeah. Awesome. Until next time.
Mate. Until next time. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you soon. Have a good night and talk it out.
Nice sign off.